Believe it or not everyone solves their problems with their fists.
2 girls?
2.
You want to tag along for an exorcism?
Yep.
That's out of the bloody question, love.
Well, we gave you its name, so you owe us.
Well, I gave you your soul, so you owe me indefinitely.
All the more reason for me to help you.
How is Fitz even here?
No, he just showed up out of nowhere with his own spaceship.
It's a baller move. Not to mention the whole bounty hunter look he's rocking.
I still prefer my cardigans.
Welcome back to the Fandom Zone podcast. I'm Charles Skaggs.
And I'm Karen Lindsay.
I was getting to that.
Okay. You said I'm Charles Skaggs.
I was pausing for dramatic effect.
Okay. I thought I'd just
And I was going to go, and with me as always,
okay,
my favorite person, my favorite podcast partner.
Thank you.
Karen Lindsay.
Thank you.
So, there you go. See, I was going to give you all this big build-up.
You shouldn't play favorites, though. You shouldn't.
Well, that's true. I shouldn't play favorites, but you know, you're one of my closest podcast partners.
Thank you.
So,
so nice.
Because you're very special to me.
Thank you, and the same for you.
Yes.
Back at you.
Not that my other podcast partners aren't special, because they are.
Oh, that's
so
true.
I don't play favorites, but Karen, obviously, Karen and I share the same brain.
That's true, and I like all your podcasts, all your other podcast partners too. They're all awesome. And by the way, you showed me that Batman Catwoman wedding.
Yeah. So
comic?
I was showing. Well, first let me say that this is welcome to episode 145, everybody, for the week ending June 30th, 2018. And I'll get in our shows in a minute, but yeah, I was showing Karen our copy of Batman 50, my copy of Batman 50.
Yeah, and can I just say,
which has Batman making out with Catwoman on the cover from their wedding.
The page with him and Alfred is amazing, right? Where he and Alfred hug and
well, there's a great moment in here. You obviously can't find it, or because I'm flipping through pages here on a podcast. But let me get to the spot here where Batman had, I guess, Alfred was wondering if Bruce Wayne, who has become engaged to Selina Kyle, they're about to get married, if he should get a hold of Dick Grayson or Superman to be Bruce's best man.
Right.
But Alfred is given the honor of being the best man because obviously Alfred's been with him the longest.
And he is the best man.
He is the best man.
Yeah, and they hug and there's some tears.
Alfred's all verklempt.
Yeah.
From the,
and that is, I think, the best page in that entire book. Well,
the artist, Mikhail Janin, is a personal favorite of mine right now. He's
so good.
Every book he's on, he's killing it. I've been following that guy since he was on the first Justice League Dark series. And he's so talented, and he, paired with Tom King's Batman, is just brilliant. It's perfection.
And I'm not going to spoil it for anyone, but the ending of that book is not what I would have wanted.
No,
but Tom King has said that he has plans that go past this. So I'm hopeful that it will turn out. Yeah, so what Tom King, for those who were wondering about the ending, I won't spoil it here either, but Tom King is running the long game. Right. He's got 100-issue plus plan. Right. So this is not the end of the Batcat storyline. Right. And this is just he didn't fridge her. No. Which is good. Because for one thing, she got her own spinoff series out this week too. Right.
But yeah, she got her own Catwoman series now, in addition to Tom King's Batman. Right. And that one's by Joelle Jones,
yeah, but
who's very talented.
If there's a comic where a superhero is going to get married,
right,
they usually die.
Right, but Catwoman is a major player, right. So it's not like she's, and there's been some criticism of that since the 90s.
Yeah. When
that happened to, that term, fridging.
Because someone actually got put in a fridge.
Right, exactly. There was this character named Alex. She was the girlfriend of Kyle Rayner's Green Lantern.
Right.
And it was written by Ron Mars. Mm-hmm. And in that story, it was like maybe 5 issues into Kyle's run as the Green Lantern. And writer Ron Mars decided, I'll just do some cheap shock value. Mm-hmm. And I will have Major Force, this bad guy, stuff Green Lantern's girlfriend into a refrigerator and kill her.
Right. And it's a way of motivating.
So basically, Kyle comes home, is horrified to find his girlfriend. There's a note that says, left you a present in the fridge.
Right. And she's dead in the refrigerator. It's a really lazy way of motivating a superhero that sacrifices a female.
Right.
And it's a very lazy way of writing. And
it's just pure shock value. And
it's very misogynistic, too.
Yeah, and it kind of was the impetus for Gail Simone writing this column called Women in Refrigerators.
Right.
That she kind of built her name on.
Right. And it's not I mean, she is amazing. She's an amazing authoress in herself, but, whatever.
So, yeah, you can credit Ron Mars for that.
Yeah.
In case you see him at a convention. Say, thanks, buddy.
It was just lazy.
Yeah, well, and there's no real excuse. I mean, yeah, it was like in the 90s, but still, it was just cheap shock. It was basically like if, you had Lex Luthor kill Lois Lane, stuff her into a fridge for Superman to find.
Right, exactly right. And
no excuse for it.
There was no need to do it either. I mean, yeah. So, okay, so anyway.
No, we got off on that team.
On to the fandom zone. Hold on.
Yes, on to the fandom.
What is this bizarre segue that's happening?
Yeah.
But we're about comics.
We're talking comics. We're kind of in the
fandom zone. It's the fandom zone.
Exactly. Well, and we have 3 shows this week. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about the second episode of Preacher Season 3, Sons of Bitches. Mm-hmm. Gives me an excuse to say Sons of Bitches.
I know, right?
Hey, Rob, it's the title of the episode.
That's right.
Have to refer to it. Cloak and Dagger, episode 6 of the first season, Funhouse Mirrors. Mm-hmm. And then Luke Cage, episode 3 of the second season, Wig Out.
Excellent. And it's an all voodoo extravaganza this week.
Again.
Yeah.
Yeah, the voodoo that you do keeps continuing.
That's right.
Once again.
Yep. All 3 episodes. Yeah.
So lots in play. So let's dive right into Preacher first.
I know. I feel like we should mix them up, but
you want to mix them up? We can mix them up.
You.
I don't care. I'm open. What do you feel like? What do you want to talk about first?
Want to talk about Luke Cage first?
We can talk about Luke Cage first if you want to do that. All right. So switching gears.
Beep, I don't have that sound effect. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. So we'll talk about Luke Cage first. Wig Out. In my opinion, the weakest of the 3.
I agree.
Week. And we're both kind of in agreement on that one. Yeah. So this was, let me get to the right page here, written by Matt Owens, directed by Mark Jobst.
Okay.
And what's our A, B, and C here? Shame. We ought to get the Game of Thrones shame.
Yeah. Although I do have to say one part of the storyline.
Shame.
One part of the storyline was pretty good.
Okay.
Okay, so A story, anger unmanaged.
Yep.
As in, instead of anger management, anger unmanaged. Cage copycat.
Yeah,
and then,
that would be Bushmaster.
Right, 3 against 3, and it's 3 men against 3 fists.
Okay,
that's
is that Colleen and Misty?
Yeah, because Misty only has one hand.
That was actually the highlight of my week.
It was me too.
For this episode.
Me too. Misty and Colleen were the highlight of that episode, definitely.
AKA the Daughters of the Dragon. Mm-hmm. Because they're supposed to be working together.
Yeah, and I loved both of the scenes with them in it. Them working at the dojo, because Colleen calls her out big time. And then she tries that hippy-dippy stuff on her Which, of course...
Hippie.
No, you know what I mean, though. Misty is thinking it is.
Well, Misty thinks, it's just, this mysticism, yada, yada.
Right, and she's smiling as she's trying to, focus and all that.
Thinking she's, like, talking out of, a fortune cookie or something. Right.
And then, of course, when they're in the bar... And that guy hits on her, and let's just talk about 3 against 3, right?
We might as well.
So they're in the bar, and when she turns around, the guy recognizes her, and Colleen just kind of sits back and watches the carnage happen. She actually tries to punch that guy with her non-existent arm, and realizing that she is taking control of her body, that she feels everything.
Yeah, that was a good moment because, for one thing, it made her confront the loss of her arm.
Right.
And then, in the middle of the fight, she realizes she has to adjust her fighting style.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that was good. She
kind of takes that left turn.
And then she realizes that, no pun intended, because she's missing her right arm.
Right.
But she realizes she has to fight differently, and as a result, she gets more confidence back.
Right. Because she has to be more aware of what she's doing. She places herself in the moment, which is something I'm learning right now.
Right.
Is to be more in the moment instead of, making my head think about like the future and worrying about things.
So as someone with physical issues, did you appreciate this scene?
I did, very much so. When you put yourself in the moment, you don't concentrate on the, that looming sense of doom of, sometimes I feel like my life is on a timer. In case you're joining and you don't know, I have MS, and it's a thing where I feel like my life is on a timer. Because at some point I will most likely get worse and I will start to go downhill, and who knows, but
well, let's hope that's for a long, long way away.
Right. But there is something in my brain that sometimes says, there's a timer in my life where, I'm just waiting for it to tick down.
Right.
But I have actually been forced to kind of, keep that in perspective and to live in the moment and to be more self-aware and to, stay here in this time. And that really stops me from doing that, and it also makes me happier. I have been more happier now that I have done that.
Good.
And
that's great to hear.
And seeing her do that, I was like, oh yeah, that's the kind of stuff I do, is that.
So you identified a lot with that.
Right. It's that mindfulness. It's literally mindfulness. And it sounds hippy-dippy to people who aren't into it.
Right.
I know it does, but it makes you focus on like the here and now and the stuff that you can control and all that. And
that's what Colleen was trying to impart, I think, to Misty, was that she shouldn't be letting this control her life.
Right.
And overwhelm her.
Right. You lost your arm. So what?
Accept it and move forward.
Adapt. Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's. Again, I completely identified. And I also identified with that look that Misty gave her, like, yeah, right, rolling the eyes, because I had that same thought. And then, when I started doing it, I realized that it was actually a good thing. And, so anyway, I did very much get where Colleen was coming from, and
good.
And I thought it was very cool as well. And I don't identify with someone who's lost their arm. That is a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's not to downplay that, but especially if you're someone who has lost a limb.
Right.
But I think Colleen's message that she was trying to give to Misty was positive.
Definitely, 100%.
And because there's nothing wrong with wanting.
She was also trying to kick her in the ass too, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Trying to give her. She was doing the tough love, but she wasn't trying to be a jerk. She wasn't trying to be a jerk about it.
Right. Yeah, she did it with love, definitely. And she was calling her out at the same time. Yeah. And I loved it at the bar too, where she was just sitting back on the bar,
Yeah. Well, I think she trusted. She wanted to see how Colleen or Misty would react, and whether she would step up.
Right, and she
and she gave her that chance.
And
to
then,
do it on her own.
As soon as the guy came, he broke the bottle on the bar, and he was gonna go at Misty with the broken bottle. That's when she decided and it's not like she rushed into battle either.
No.
She took a drink and sat her beer down, and then she decided.
They thought they were just some guy hitting on them,
right?
So you're just like, yeah, whatever, little boy, go away.
Well, I think he was until Misty turned around,
right?
And then he realized who Misty was, and that's when it turned sinister. But it was a very cool fight because it was great choreography with Misty on her own with the guys.
Right.
Using the pool cues and the tables and all that stuff there in the pool area of the bar. And then when Colleen got involved, again, there was more kind of a mix between like mixed martial arts and, using the items there in the pool area. It was very, very cool.
Well, one of the martial arts, they try to teach you to be aware of your surroundings and use them to fight. Like, be aware, like, what can you use as a weapon?
Right.
To defend yourself.
Right. And they did it very effectively, and those poor boys, they just didn't stand a chance.
They did have it coming, so at least that one guy did, especially.
And the other two jumped in, so.
That's true.
Yeah. And then the girls just kind of sauntered out.
Yep.
Which I loved. And again, it was
and
the highlight.
They say, oh, yeah, put it on his tab.
Yes, I loved it. It was the highlight of this episode for me. The rest of it was pretty forgettable. Right. But this was definitely the big deal.
It was a very good highlight. And again, I'm a big fan of the Daughters of the Dragon, so I'm glad to see Misty finally partnering up with Colleen.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that will continue.
Yeah.
And the two of them will form this friendship so that they kind of start interacting, especially hopefully when Misty gets her bionic arm here shortly.
Right. And now do you kind of see where that's coming?
Well, I kind of figured because I did see some pictures online.
No, but they mentioned someone, the two of them.
Oh, did they? I kind of overlooked that, but you're probably right.
Mr. Richie Rich.
Oh, yeah. That would be Danny Rand.
Yeah, who might be experimenting.
That's true. You're right. They did. Yeah, Colleen did say something about that, didn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So
I'm sure I'm sure Danny's got a little R&D department.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So that's coming soon. So
soon to become the Bionic Woman, the Bionic Misty.
Right. I can't do that thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so can we go to the most frustrating part of this episode?
Okay, so this is obviously Luke and Claire.
Anger unmanaged.
So,
thank you for being on my wavelength.
Well, yeah. Well, you saw my rating for this episode.
Yeah.
I think that pretty much sums it up, don't you? Okay. We'll get to that in a minute. But, so for those who watched the episode, you know that last week here on the Phantom Zone podcast, we were kind of griping a little bit about Claire kind of pushing Luke's buttons, which have already been kind of pushed by his father, played by Reggie Cathy.
Mm-hmm.
And Claire, more of this continues. Now we follow up on the events of the previous episode, where at the end of the episode, Luke was he had just beaten Cockroach's ass,
right,
after coming home to find Cockroach abusing his wife and kid.
Mm-hmm.
And did that, of course, in front of his wife and kid. And the kid is just like, his mouth open,
right,
agape.
And it ended with him realizing that he needed to stop.
Right.
So,
and Misty comes along, basically gets Luke out of trouble,
mm-hmm,
which he really should have been in.
Yeah. But Misty realizes that if he does get in trouble, he'd be in a lot of trouble. That'd be like third strike, right? So
yeah, and she gets reamed by her captain for letting him go.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, Cockroach kind of had it coming.
He did, but Luke kind of took it a little too far.
I agree.
And this is where, so he's kind of coming off of this, and he's just, Luke is kind of just burning with this intensity right now.
Mm-hmm. Now,
so that when
do you think that's a chemical reaction, or do you think that's Luke?
I don't know. I think it's the stuff with his father is upsetting him.
Yeah.
And because every time that when Claire brings up his father, that just really pushes his buttons.
Off. Yeah.
So we don't know if it's as a result of the second dose of chemicals or not.
Right.
But
because it could be like when you have roid rage or something.
Right.
Like that.
Exactly. Hopefully, it's just temporary.
I assume so.
Yeah, because Luke needs to basically he's all over the place right now.
Yeah, he is.
And so this ultimately leads to this very uncomfortable conversation between him and Claire, where Luke comes home, finds Claire waiting for him with the "let's talk," and she tells him she loves him. He says he loves her, but he says that she can't castrate him.
Right.
Which already is just like too far.
Bad terminology.
Really bad terminology.
Yeah.
Luke isn't really thinking this out.
No.
Well, at all.
No. Although she shouldn't have said we need to talk either.
I think there's mistakes on both sides here.
Yeah. And she shouldn't be pushing.
Right.
Now, is this before
but
she
I don't want to say it's all. I don't want to put it all on Claire because Luke has his responsibility.
Luke is pushing as well. Is this before or after she goes to visit his dad in the church?
This is after. So, yeah.
Right.
So, earlier in the episode, Claire had visited his father, and his father
is manipulating her.
Right. And also, like, I'm Mr. Sweet Guy.
Right.
And, aren't you sweet?
I just want to reconnect with my son.
Right, exactly. And Luke, of course, knows what his father is.
Of course.
So when he sees Claire talking all these great things about his dad, it just drives him up the wall.
And so it should.
So basically, you've got hot-headed Luke with coming against Claire, who's kind of pushing this relationship to reconcile with his father.
And she's coming from a place where, hey, I reconciled with my family and it was the best thing in the world for me, so I want you to do the same.
Right.
But not every family is the same, Claire.
No. So there's some mistakes going on both sides, and it's, like Luke talks about, like, hey, you never experienced racism like I have, because when I walk down the street, white women clutch their purses.
Right.
And she's like, well, look, I never had to leave the house to experience it because I was Afro-Latina.
Right.
So this argument just escalates and escalates.
It shouldn't be a one-upmanship at this point.
No, it shouldn't.
Which they're both participating in.
No, I've been more racially oppressed. Right. It's not healthy.
You both have experienced it. Full stop.
Exactly. There's not... Your concerns are both equally valid here.
Right.
We get it.
Right.
So,
but if he doesn't want to reconnect with his dad,
right,
then he shouldn't have to reconnect with his dad, and you should leave it alone. Yeah. And then if he goes over the line with his powers, then you need to step back and tell him, you crossed the line, but you know what? I need to take a step back from that. You know what I mean? They both...
And that's pretty much what happens here, because Luke loses his cool at one point in the argument, turns and punches the wall several times, which obviously could have easily been Claire's head, but thankfully Luke had presence of mind not to do that.
Right. Well, that says something about Luke.
Yes.
Because he would never take it out on her.
Right. And he does try to reassure her, is like... Luke kind of realizes immediately what he did.
Right.
And he's just like, look, I would never do this to you.
Right.
And she's kind of like, I guess so.
No, I know that he would never do that to her. And that's why he turned and hit the wall. I mean, it had to go somewhere.
Right.
So, and I think everyone has those
it is
moments.
Scary.
Of course.
When you're a regular human female.
Of course.
And you see someone just blasting holes in the wall with their fist.
Right. I honestly think that sometimes there are people that have that kind of energy that they have to release.
Yeah.
And as long as they would never release it at you, then, you're fine. It's just you have to have that reassurance that they would never do that. So,
but it does show that Luke has some anger issues he needs to get under control.
Definitely.
So Luke wants to kind of stay and kind of smooth things over, but Claire is just like, I'm going to go, be with my mom.
Right. I'm out
for a while.
Yeah.
And so she says, I think I might be best if you left.
Yeah.
So he very reluctantly leaves, but he does leave.
Yeah, because he's not that kind of guy. I mean, he's not the kind of guy that's going to argue after that.
But yeah, obviously the relationship needs some cooling off right now.
Definitely.
Because all they're doing is just butting heads.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes outside, and this is the cliffhanger for this episode, where he puts his headphones on, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Bushmaster comes in and cold cocks him.
Right. Now,
bam.
This is after Bushmaster has done some things throughout the episode. He delivers body parts to...
We will talk about that. That's a Cage copycat. Let's just dive right into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he delivers body parts to Shades of an associate who wasn't up to the task, right?
Right.
And then he... what else does he do?
Well, let's see. What else does
it'll make sense. The punch will make sense after some.
Yeah. So Shades was going to meet with this guy named Nigel,
right?
And then Bushmaster was there,
right?
And so he gives Shades this duffel bag full of cash in Nigel's head,
mm-hmm.
and he tells Shades that he needs to convince him to do the deal.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, Nigel wasn't a player.
Right.
But Bushmaster can be.
Right. And then Luke ended up following a guy later who asked him about Nigel, or he was talking about Nigel. So Luke followed this guy.
Right.
And so he busts the door down, and then there's like initial confrontation with Bushmaster and his crew.
Right.
Where essentially Luke is auditioning what he can do in front of Bushmaster.
Exactly. And he ends up like going up against some guns, the guys themselves.
Right.
Like a gauntlet.
Yeah, exactly. So like, one guy's got like a scimitar and he's going,
right.
Right. Like in Indiana Jones where he throws a punch and knocks the guy out.
Right. And he just mows down most of the guys.
Yeah, there's like one of them throws a grenade and then he grabs the grenade and kind of muffles it in his hand like Superman would do.
Yeah. And it explodes.
And then at that moment, Bushmaster's like,
all
right, we'll just let you walk out here now.
Right. And Luke also goes into a Jamaican-owned, like it's a bar, restaurant, lounge type place where
this is in Brooklyn.
Right. So it's not in Harlem.
It's not in Harlem, so he's getting no respect in Brooklyn.
Right.
He's from these old Jamaican guys.
Right. And they're telling him, this isn't your town.
Right.
We don't care about you here.
Yeah, Luke played the "Don't you know who I am" card.
He literally said, "Don't you know who I am?"
Yeah, and they're just like, "Yeah, we know who you are. We don't care."
Right. Yeah, and he
go back to Harlem.
He just kind of turns around and walks out, and Bushmaster sees him do that too, and he sees kids on the street. Right. I'm Luke Cage. No, I'm Luke Cage.
Yeah. So Bushmaster ends up like using this video footage that he got of fighting Luke,
mm-hmm.
and he goes back and he like prepares, like he throws it up on his big screen or whatever, and starts kind of like mimicking the moves to try to get Luke's fighting style down.
And this is the voodoo part of the episode. He's got all these herbs and these like smoke things.
Juicing up on all this stuff.
Right. He's amped it up a bit.
He's training to fight Luke.
Right. And he's mimicking all the moves that he sees Luke doing, and you see like his eyes are glowing, and he's making all these weird you can see that he's kind of transforming a bit with all these potions and stuff. That's
probably overdoing it.
Yeah,
that's
most likely over-amping himself.
Right.
So after all this happens, he sees Luke out on the street as Luke is leaving Claire's apartment, and
bam!
He punches him, and Luke goes down.
And Luke's ears are ringing.
Yeah.
So which it says a lot that Luke Cage's ears are ringing. Mm-hmm. And then Bushmaster comes into view, and it's just like, Yeah. And now we're going to get the after effects of this, because I'm sure somebody was recording that.
I'm assuming because they can track him now.
Right.
So Eurocam or whatever.
So it's not a good look for Luke Cage right now.
No.
To get sucker punched right in the middle, walking down the street.
I have to say, at some point, most likely, Bushmaster's going to get outed because his powers are not real.
Right.
His powers are definitely, fake and temporary and, manufactured. And Luke's a real, 100%. They're permanent. They're, so...
Luke should be playing the long game.
Right, and he is. I mean, he has no choice but to play the long game because his are, real. And as long as he can outlast Bushmaster's powers, get him somewhere for an elongated period of time.
Right. Or get him somewhere where you can burn off those powers.
That's what I'm saying. Get him away from his potions and elixirs and whatever.
Right, use that up.
Right. Then I think if he can figure out that that's what's going on, then we'll be good. So, And I think, there was more stuff. With the daughter.
There was more stuff with Mariah and her daughter.
She has a rally about families.
A fundraiser,
about families, and then you're realizing kind of that this is why she looked up her daughter.
She invited her daughter there and then used her daughter during the fundraiser to get some sympathy for people to pony up some money.
Right. And I think her daughter is kind of buying into it, but also kind of realizes that her mother's using her too.
Right.
So there's a little bit of both.
And Tilda, the daughter, a.k.a. Nightshade in the comics.
Right.
She's kind of seeing some shady stuff going on. No pun intended, because shades.
Yeah, she's not loving that.
So she's just kind of eyeballing everything at the moment.
Yeah. They have a discussion about, she remembers some really great times back, with the family. And then she remembers there was a darkness, too, around the family. So there's some conversations going on.
Did you say the darkness?
Yes.
This is bad.
Yes.
Hello, Batman.
Cottonmouth had the darkness. Okay, so...
So we had one other thing we found out this episode was that Bushmaster has a spy in with Mariah's crew.
Right.
That new hostess that...
Billy.
Billy, the one that Mariah keeps calling Billy, and she's like, no, my name's Stephanie.
Right.
Well, apparently Billy is a spy for the Jamaicans.
For Bushmaster, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Well, at least Bushmaster's faction.
Yeah. So essentially everything that Mariah doesn't want the Jamaicans to know, they know.
Right. As
we find out. So.
Yep.
All right. Anything else about this episode?
No, I'm good. And again, things are moving along. Right. So it's not like it's standing still. But the whole thing with Claire is, really bringing me down. At least I think that's going to be out for right now.
I hope this is the worst of it.
Yeah.
I want things to start coming back around now.
Yeah.
Because if they drag this out, I'm going to be really bothered by that.
Me too. So This is the lowest rating I've given a Luke Cage. And it's not low. So
what is your rating?
I give it 8 pieces of hand grenade.
Right.
And 8's pretty solid. It would have been lower except for the Colleen and Misty part.
Right. I'm with you. I give it 8 as well. 8 awkward fist-sized holes in the wall for obvious reasons. Awkward.
Exactly.
Yeah, pretty much.
But a good episode, just,
Yeah, I'm ready to kind of move past this part.
Yeah, me too.
All right, let's get to the...
Only the 3rd episode, though, so...
I know. So we got 10 more episodes to go, so hang in there. Hopefully some brighter days ahead.
Agreed.
All right, so what do you want to talk about now?
Your pick.
Let's see here. Let's do Preacher.
Let's do.
All right, so Preacher 302, Sons of Bitches.
You like
As I get to say, Sons of Bitches.
Sons of Bitches.
That's the episode title, written by Sarah Goodman, directed by Michael Slovis, once again, who directed the first episode of the season. Mm-hmm. All right, what's our A, B, and C?
You can say it, God can say it, I can say it, because God says it in this episode.
Yes, he does. God does say sons of bitches in this episode.
He does. Yep. A story, Soul Survivors, and that is the flashback and the Grail.
Yep.
The B story, ATF, and that stands for Alcohol, Tulip, and Firearms. No tobacco.
Which is great.
Yep.
Which is great. Yep.
C story is Firing the First Goat instead of Shot.
Okay.
Because the two families are warring. And
that's right. They
happen to fire a goat.
That's true. It was that kind of like that scene in Monty Python where they have the catapult and they launch sheep and stuff over the castle wall against King Arthur and his minions.
Right. The Boyds.
They're like, Jesus Christ, and then you hear all these animal sounds.
Away!
There's a duck going rah, 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 and then a cow. They launch a cow at them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they send a goat that's mostly dead, as
opposed to all dead.
Right. Mostly dead over. The Boyds do, and that was that whole storyline with the Boyds over there, which I loved, by the way.
We might as well talk about that since we already talked about it. Okay, go for it. So essentially we kind of pick up more with the rivalry going on between Grandma, Jody and TC's group, the Langels, and the Boyds. Mm-hmm. And
now the Boyds aren't in the comics, right?
I don't remember them.
Yeah,
no.
I don't either.
I think this is something they invented for the show.
Yeah.
So that, so they end up, I guess they're trying to get back at them. So I guess later in the episode, Tulip uses a toy car bomb to blow out a section of Madame Boyd's place.
Right.
And so they escape. And the Boyds are chasing them, and everyone prepares for a shootout. And there's a great moment where, like, Jody is kind of standing with Cassidy, who has his umbrella hat on.
Yes.
And he's like, "Why are you wearing that umbrella hat?"
Yeah.
And Cassidy's like, "Oh, I've got the skin cancer, don't you know? The worst kind, melatonin." Melatonin is a skin cancer, apparently.
Melatonin is actually just the stuff that colors your skin, Cassidy.
Exactly, but Cassidy thinks that's the skin cancer.
Yeah,
so.
Or he thinks that's going to convince
So then, at that moment, there's like a cannon fired from one of the trucks, and when the smoke clears, there's a goat stuck headfirst in the ground.
Right.
And TC's like, "Oh, this is this kind of goat." He starts explaining what kind of a goat it is.
Right.
Well, Jody explains that shooting a goat at someone is just like a voodoo telegraph. Mm-hmm. It means simply that they want them dead. So it's like kind of like when you hand someone like the black spot or something.
Right.
But it's much more interesting, I guess.
I guess.
So it's on between the Boyds and the Langels.
Correct. So funny. I'm sorry, it's just so absurd and funny.
It was very much a Preacher scene.
It was.
The absurdity and insanity of it.
It really was.
It was pretty good.
Yeah, so they're having that.
Yeah. So during this, Cassidy gets shot in the chest.
Yeah.
TC says he won't leave him, but then he promptly does just that to chase after the Boyds.
Right.
As they try to take off.
Yeah, he goes, "You'll hang in there. You'll be fine. And then he runs off.
Yeah, exactly. So
I won't leave you.
And then he takes off
and
running.
then he goes, well, hold it.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
Right. Yeah. So Tula goes to get some blood bags, and then at this point she sees this empty vial on the table, assumed that Jesse got his soul back.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't, as it turns out. We'll talk about that.
Right. Soul survivors. Now, let's talk about the flashback, because I loved this.
Okay.
We get this flashback to Jesse when he's, I don't know, what is he, in high school age, I guess?
That sounds about right, yeah.
And he's sitting on some bleachers, and the vice principal comes over, and I didn't like this guy from the very start, by the way, so I don't really care what happened to him. But and I'm assuming we're not supposed to care what happened to him.
No, because what we find out is that a girl's obsessed with him after a sexual encounter, supposedly.
Right. A high school age girl.
Yes. So essentially you have a teacher having an affair with a high school girl.
Right. And Jesse's okay with wiping her memory, which is what they do to her.
The guy wants to get rid of her. Yeah.
Right. So what they do is they just wipe that memory out so that she doesn't react to him anymore, which that's good.
Right. So they have this deal, and Jesse warns him there's consequences of missing a payment on the deal.
Right.
And so the teacher doesn't take this seriously.
No.
So he misses his next payment is really skimpy.
Yep.
And then he completely misses the next one after that.
Right. He doesn't even show up.
Which you're an idiot if you're missing payments on a voodoo priestess.
Right. Especially once you figure out that she actually came through and did the magic. I mean, if a priestess...
if you know the magic works,
right,
you would pay up if you're smart.
Yeah.
So this guy obviously has it coming.
Yeah. So at this point, Jesse gets TC and Jody involved. Mm-hmm.
They chase the teacher through the woods, where Jesse basically beats the crap out of him.
Yep. They throw him into the back of a truck, and he's begging for his life. I'll pay. Yep. And they say, well, it's a little too late for that. And they say, well, you'll pay all right. And they take him back to Grandma, and they kind of hook him into a chair.
They hook him up to that machine.
Right. And the machine that
we've kind of figured out helps keep Madame Langell alive.
Right. It's the machine that Jesse's mother was put in.
Right.
And Jesse's about to leave the room when Grandma says, "Nah, it's about time he starts to see how the sausage is made."
Right.
And so he stays in the room while whatever happens. And what it really is that they're taking part of the guy's soul.
Yes.
For Grandma to stay alive.
Right. So essentially she's feeding off this energy.
Right.
To stay alive. Now we pick up at the end of the episode to find that the guy is still somehow alive.
Right.
But he's been kept in this I forget what they call it, the pits or something or whatever. I forget what they call this.
Yeah, it's just a basement or a cellar or something.
The tombs.
The tombs.
I'm sorry. So they call it the tombs. So essentially the tombs is this like basement prison area, cell area, where this guy is all chained up. His face is all scarred up.
Right. He's missing an eye.
Yeah. And the guy is just like begging for Jesse to help him.
Right.
And Jesse says, nope.
Yeah, I can't help you. And I'm assuming she just drains them piece by piece.
Yeah, probably, uses one, lets that person recover enough to use them again later by using a different, you kind of like gravitate from person to person.
Right.
While they build up their life energy.
Right.
Yeah. Until they're used up.
Of course, that is where the other person from last week's episode came from, the guy who showed up in the kitchen to beg Jesse's mother to help him.
Right.
Remember that old, decrepit, looked like a homeless guy?
Yes.
He came out from the tombs and all that. So these are reapers for Grandma.
Right.
Jesse's mother was one. TC and Jody to a certain extent. But she wants Jesse to stay and recruit these people.
Yeah, so essentially we find out that's part of the deal that Jesse made.
Right.
Was that he agrees to work for his grandma again.
Right.
And do this for her to help with this harvesting business.
Yep.
In exchange for bringing Tulip back.
Right.
So that was the deal.
Now, there are more than one reviewers that do not understand this is what's going on. They don't see what Grandma's motivation is for keeping Jesse.
Well, and we have the benefit of the comics.
It doesn't matter. It's clear to me that this is what she's doing.
Right. Well, some reviewers are idiots.
Yeah, I guess so. So yeah, she's stealing their soul. She needs Jesse to help with recruiting or reaping or whatever to bring these people in.
So here in the Phantom Zone podcast, we've got your back.
Exactly.
So forget those stupid reviewers. Just listen to us, and everything will be all hunky dory.
Now, and I notice those people are like, I don't get it. Okay. Of course you don't get it. You're not paying attention. Now, what's a better person to get to help you bring souls in than a preacher?
Yeah.
Am I right?
Right.
You know, you're going to trust a guy wearing a collar. So she's thinking forward, Grandma.
Right.
Okay, and then the Tulip also sees some rustling. She's out. Okay, here's the ATF.
Yeah. So this is Tulip's big. Now that she's back from the dead, and Tulip's kind of trying to get her bearings back still.
Right. She looks in the fridge, and first she sees Booberry out on the counter.
Right.
And she's like, maybe not, because
after last week,
I remember the last time I had some.
Right.
And she sees a 6-pack of beer. And she goes for that and a gun.
Right.
And the next time you see her, she's out in the side yard or whatever, and she's setting up empty beer cans while she's drinking them.
Right. So basically she drinks the beer, empties it, then makes the empty beer cans targets.
Right.
Because obviously you don't want to shoot full beer cans and waste the beer.
Of course.
Right.
Well, that only makes sense.
Right. And then Jody catches her doing this.
Yeah. And kind of ruins her target practice.
Yeah.
By blowing the whole fence away. Essentially.
Like, how dare you shoot at my beer can targets?
Right.
So then Jody gives Tulip this big ass gun, which he describes as, and I've wrote this down, an M4 ASR with a special scope and a 1,000 yard range.
Nice.
So
and she would prefer a gun with a little more finesse.
But she takes it out for a little test drive.
But she likes it anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
But she looks through the scope and she sees the rustling in the bushes.
Yep. So she doesn't shoot the target, though.
No.
Decides to go after it herself.
That's right. And who does it happen to be?
Featherstone.
Yeah.
Lara Featherstone. Her arch nemesis.
The person who killed her.
Right. So there's a brief fight. The Tulip obviously wins.
Yeah, she's got a little motivation.
Slightly. A couple of grudges there. So then... I
love that...
Jesse and Cassidy find that Tulip's got Lara.
Yeah, and I love that she bloodies her face just, so
smashes her right in the nose.
Yeah, over and over and over. And Featherstone and Malcolm Barrett. Hoover, thank you. Yeah. They're both lurking in the bushes.
Right.
And they've been doing it apparently for a couple days or something because they're all camouflaged out there.
Yeah.
And
so this leads to a really funny moment. So Grandma sends Jody and TC to help with Jesse's revenge plot.
Yeah.
And they march Featherstone and Hoover to the swamp to dispose of their bodies.
Yeah.
And as they're walking, Cassidy once again goes off on the genius of the film Miller's Crossing, and how its creators, Joel and Ethan Coen, couldn't possibly be the same people who created The Big Lebowski.
I love it.
So Cassidy's still not letting the whole Big Lebowski thing go.
And when he says, I can't believe those two are the same ones who made The Big Lebowski. And Tulip says, oh, no, not that again.
Well, she's just like, oh, no, not again.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they're having, and I'm wondering if Cassidy is understanding that I think he's using this as a distraction technique. Because I think that he knows that Jesse wants to get these two away from Jody and TC.
Right.
I really do think he is getting that vibe that he needs to get these two away. And even though I know they're not really talking right now, like he and Jesse are at odds, he also knows that Jesse wants his soul back from the Grail.
Right. And they've talked about they need to get away.
Right.
So this is part of Jesse's plan to get them away.
Right. So
he's kind of grudgingly going along because Tulip wants him to go along with it.
I think so.
Yes.
And I think the talking about Lebowski is a way to distract everyone. And maybe
well,
have Tulip...
They probably kind of he's trying to lull everybody thinking, well, Cassidy's an idiot. He's no threat. A
little bit, yeah. Yeah. And also kind of just what is he talking about? What is going on right now? Kind of a confusion technique. Because that's his whole deal.
Right. He tries to throw people off and take advantage of their disorientation.
Right.
To satisfy his own agenda.
Exactly. He really does act dumber than he is. That his whole deal is acting. So
he probably have a good job ahead of him in our current administration in the White House.
Oh wow! Would he really work his way into the White House?
That's essentially what's going on there too.
Yeah.
In case for anybody paying attention.
Right.
Right.
One would. I don't know that he would have $50 overnight stays at a friend's house, but
no, he just want to. He could crash, at
crash for free.
Somebody's. Yeah, he'll crash on your couch or something.
Right. Okay, so they're walking, and I've seen a meme too where Jesse is standing where they first capture Featherstone and Hoover,
right?
And Grandma's like, "Take him out to the swamp and put him down." To Jody, and Jesse is looking around at Jody, and it's like when your grandma tells you got to take your little brother along. Because obviously it's not what he wants to do. He doesn't want, Jody to come along and ruin the whole thing. Okay, so they go to this little pier out in the swamps, and Jody is like throwing all these animals into this thing.
Well, essentially what he's got, what's called the juicer.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a juicer.
No, I'm sorry, the organ grinder.
Right.
So essentially what this is, it's like a wood chipper. And so they shove animals into this thing, and it basically becomes this pulverized goo.
Right.
As a result, they put that in jars, which he calls swamp consomme.
Right.
And then Tulip and Cassidy at that moment realize that's what they've been eating.
Right.
And Cassidy's like, "Oh no, it's all perfectly fine. I heated it up so it should sanitize everything."
Right.
And then, besides, you like hot dogs anyway.
Dogs? Right.
You like hot dogs anyway.
Right.
And then Tulip's just like,
that line was so funny. But you like hot dogs. Yeah, it was so funny. Well,
remember, Cassidy's a vampire, so he's just probably like,
he doesn't care.
He doesn't care.
No.
Tulip might care.
All the better for him. In fact, you know what? He might get sick at the other parts.
Remember, Cassidy's eating like cows and stuff, so I'm sure he's cool with it.
Yeah, he's fine with it. But he heated it up for Tulip, so it's all good.
Mistake. Yeah. I didn't want you to get any food poisoning. Don't want any botulism.
Yeah. Okay, so Jody's showing this off, and while they're having this discussion, Jesse says, "Oh my God, one of them ran off."
Yeah, Hoover books it hard.
Well,
he
kind of.
Well,
because...
first he tries to pretend he's sick,
mm-hmm.
and then he takes off.
Right, because Jesse tells him to.
Right.
But
so she's like, yeah.
Jesse...
It's like, we're going to try to get you out of here.
Right.
Because Jesse's trying to angle to get his soul back.
Right. So Jesse lets him go.
Yeah.
But he pretends like, oh my God, he ran away. And so he says, hey, Jody, TC, you go that way. And, Cassidy, Tulip, you go that way. And then, of course, he takes off in the direction that he knows they went.
Right.
With Featherstone. And then, he sends them off and says to tell Hairstar. He sends them off with a message.
Yeah,
Star.
a message. Yeah, so that nothing's changed.
Right.
So then Featherstone takes off. She disappears, and then Tulip shows up, all like, kind of, what the hell did you do, Jesse?
Right. And he explains to her that he needs his soul back.
Right.
And this leads to the part where she sees that. Well, Hairstar shows up and gives him a vial that looks like his soul, and he takes it and he uses the word, even though
he basically tries to tell Hairstar to kind of eat his dick.
Right.
And Jesse and Hairstar is just like, I'm sure that would be fabulous for me to do, but I don't really feel like I'm in the mood for that. Right. So that's not happening.
Right. And it's a placebo.
Yeah.
But he does say, hey, I have it. It's out in the car. Let's go get it.
Right.
And of course, Jesse agrees to be the Messiah in exchange.
Right.
Which he has no intention on following through. But
so just as he's like taking Jesse out to the car.
Right.
Tulip starts shooting.
Well, she comes in and sees this vial on the table and thinks he's got his soul back.
Right.
So this is when she goes out and mows down the Grail, essentially. Shoots Hairstar, like, on his bald head.
Yeah.
Which is just, like, this near hit.
Yeah.
And they all jump into the car. I mean, he's literally got his hand on his soul.
Right.
And they, like, snap it away, and he's like, oh, I see. You were going to kill us after you got your soul. Okay, then. Bye now. And they take off. And then one of Jesse's comments is, well, at least the swamp won't starve, because now they've got all these Grail bodies to put into the swamp.
Right, exactly. So, but Jesse is pissed at Tulip.
Yeah, really pissed.
Because it's like, I was this close to getting it back and you screwed it up.
Yeah, and Tulip looks chastised.
Yeah.
So, she's gutted. You can tell.
That's kind of where we left.
Yeah. It's not good.
Yeah. So Jesse tells Grandma that he'll get out of their deal someday, and that's when she sent him off to the tombs. Yeah. Cassidy tells Tulip that Jesse has a dark side, and Tulip tells Cassidy that she needs to fix this.
Mm-hmm. Because she knows she screwed it up.
Right. So she's trying to own up her mistake.
Right. And then that's when we see the vice principal down in the tombs. And,
yeah. Now, we did forget one really cool moment.
Okay.
With Hairstar. Because earlier in the episode, we had Hairstar in India.
Right.
And there's this great moment where he just shows up and all hell breaks loose, set to get together by the Youngbloods.
Right.
Come on, people now. Shine on your brother. Everybody get together. And all that. So it's this big, cool shootout scene in slow-mo. And only, like, there's, like, only the Swami. This is like a monastery or something. Mm-hmm. That there's a Swami there. He's the only one still standing.
Right.
And so they have the Swami faces off with Hairstar. The Swami does this whole karate moves thing, and then Hairstar just kicks him in the balls.
Yes. Hard.
Right. And then his phone rings with a call delivering Jesse's message. So he hangs up, and then he goes back to the Swami and says, "Will you take Humperdew as your one true leader?"
Yeah.
The Swami refuses, and then Hairstar shoots him in the head.
Right.
So, pretty epic scene.
Yeah. Now, this guy's name is... Oh, what is his name? Bob... Oh, Dave Allen. Dave Gruber Allen. And he had a show on the original Comedy Network.
Okay. Before it became Comedy Channel.
Right.
Which became Comedy Central.
Right. Called The Higgins Boys and Gruber.
Right.
And he played Gruber.
Gruber, obviously.
Right. And it was David Anthony Higgins, his brother Stephen Higgins, and Gruber.
Right.
Who is Dave Allen.
Okay.
And every time I see him in something, I remember this show. It was the dumbest show.
I never watched it.
But it was really funny. It was, one of those like short.
Was it kind of like redneck humor?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
David Anthony Higgins, his brother Stephen Higgins, who writes for The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon.
And Gruber.
By the way. And Gruber sit around a set kitchen smoking massive amounts of cigarettes and drinking coffee.
Okay.
So.
That does sound very redneck, yes.
Yeah, it is. But it's very funny.
Okay. So what's your rating for this one? Unless there's anything else that we need to talk about.
No, it was a good episode. Not as good as the premiere, but good.
Right. Yep.
8 camouflage capes.
Which, again, still pretty solid.
Yeah, still pretty solid.
I like this one a little more. I love the craziness in this one.
Mm-hmm.
8.5 beer can targets.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons.
I was super frustrated because of...
I give it the extra half, I think, for that Hair Star fight scene.
Yeah, that was funny.
That made me laugh.
I was frustrated with Tulip a lot.
Yeah.
And
she's getting there.
I'm not sure what's happening with the Boyds.
Yeah.
I mean, I get all the rest of it, but
right.
I don't know where the Boyd storyline is going.
I don't either. I don't either. Jesse's gonna have to do something very unpleasant to the Boyds, or I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah. So
I guess we'll find out.
That's a thread I'm scratching my head over that.
Yeah. We have a new episode of Preacher tonight as we're recording this, so fingers crossed. We'll find out.
Yeah. We're caught up.
Because obviously we're back on a Sunday, guys.
I know.
On track.
I'm so glad.
Crazy. How crazy go nuts is that?
Yeah.
All right. So, last show, Cloak and Dagger, 106 Funhouse Mirrors.
Excellent.
This was an interesting episode.
Yeah.
Written by Jay Holtham and Jenny Klein, directed by Jennifer, and it's spelled Phang, but I read that it's pronounced Pong.
Okay.
So, Jennifer Pong.
That's cool.
All right. What's our A, B, and C, if you would, please?
Okay. Wanna be like me, nah.
Right. Which is good. I like that title.
And then going on the theme with me at the end of the sentence.
Yep.
Work with me.
Right.
And then reading the room.
Okay.
And that's, of course, Elvira and her aunt.
You mean Evita that you keep calling Elvira?
Evita.
That's 3 weeks in a row. You keep calling her Elvira.
I like Elvira better.
Apparently. Apparently the character should be named Elvira.
Evita.
Yep.
And her aunt.
Don't cry for me, Argentina.
Why do I not remember? Because I sang that song even.
I don't know. That's all right.
Evita and her aunt.
Right. So, A story, Want to Be Like Mina. That's kind of like one of the main storylines in this.
Can I just say, this is like a what if episode.
Right. Well, the title, Funhouse Mirrors, I'm guessing obviously has to refer to Tandy and Tyrone kind of flipping their personalities in this episode. Tandy has to act like she's, the streetwise hustler, is acting like a good-natured, eco-friendly, she's posing as like a very eco-friendly intern to this scientist named Mina.
Right.
Where Tyrone, who's normally like the straight-laced good kid, is falling in with the bad crowd with Dwayne.
Yeah, to be fair.
And the drug dealers.
Yeah, to be fair, I think he's doing that on purpose.
Right, but my point is...
It's
basically taking them out of their normal elements.
Right.
And putting them in the opposite. So it's essentially like a Funhouse mirror version of themselves.
Right, going against type.
So that's what I'm guessing the title's coming from. if you're wondering.
Right. And it is almost like a what if, like, what if my dad hadn't died, I would have been like Mina. And what if my brother hadn't died, I might have been like Dwayne. So.
Pretty much.
Yeah. It's very much like that.
So with Tandy, I think, has a really more interesting storyline going on.
I agree.
So Tandy,
until the end of Tyrone's.
Right, exactly. Which goes really pear-shaped rather horribly.
Very horribly, yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about Tyrone, or you want to talk about Tandy first?
Tandy's fine.
Right. Okay, so let's start with Tandy. Mm-hmm. So Tandy, picking up on the end of last week's episode, where we were introduced to this scientist that worked with Roxxon. Mm-hmm. Her name is Mina Hess.
Right.
So Tandy tracks down this Mina Hess, decides to pose as her new intern.
Right.
So her whole thing is like, well, she tries to say, well, so-and-so at Roxxon told me to find you. They assigned me to you or whatever. I brought coffee.
Right.
And then Mina says, well, no, I didn't actually ask for an intern. So Tandy acts all hurt. Mm-hmm. And she's just like, well, I guess I'll go. And then Mina relents and says, okay, just, I hope you have this and hip waders and all this and mm-hmm. all this kind of equipment.
Right.
To do this. So
and of course Tandy says, I'll get whatever. And
right,
yeah.
Exactly. So Tandy views Mina as her mark, mm-hmm. obviously, for this purpose that she's trying to get information about her dad.
Right. And it's not so much as, it's a mark, yes, but she's not trying to, like, swindle her. She needs information.
Right.
And I'm thinking that she thinks that Mina knows sinister things that have happened at Roxxon, and she is really shocked at what she finds out.
Yeah, well, Mina actually turns out to be a pretty decent person.
Yeah, super decent person.
Yeah, so like she's baking like cookies and
yeah,
like she lives in like making use out of. She's got like kind of like a headquarters built out of these recycled storage containers.
Yeah, she's all about what she preaches.
She does live the lifestyle that she
mm-hmm.
preaches. Yes, definitely.
Exactly. She is exactly who she appears to be. Right. She is a very good person. Everything about Mina is on the surface, and Tandy.
She's obviously a crusader,
right? And Tandy is super impressed by her, and
although she's a little weirded out because Mina is such a selfless person.
Yeah, she doesn't get it.
So Tandy's having a little hard time at first reconciling that.
Yeah. And especially since they kind of have the same background with their dads both working for this horrible company.
Right. So she figures Mina has to have some ulterior motive, right. But she doesn't really have an ulterior motive.
Nope, not at all. Because her dad worked for Roxxon for good reasons.
Right.
And she knows that her father doesn't work for Roxxon now, which, she's very curious about that. And so she gets Mina to, say, she says, well, if your father knew my father, then I'd like to talk to your father. And unfortunately, that doesn't really result in a good way.
No, not at all.
No. Mina does introduce Tandy to her father, who is suffering from dementia.
Yeah, so we're not quite sure how this happened, but Tandy, she asks Mina after the whole truth comes out,
right?
Which gets
not
obviously
an intern, and
which obviously becomes a little awkward because hey, you lied to me,
right?
And all that, but Tandy asked Mina if she could kind of like try to speak to her dad,
right?
To try to get some information out of him. So she kind of touches his knee or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And there's kind of like, tries to get some information. And I forget, let's see, what did she actually see when she touched him.
I'm not remembering.
I think, what is it here? Oh, she sees Ty's darkness powers coming out the cracks of a door.
Right.
And then when she touches that, she bails on the vision.
Right.
So
it was too much.
It was too much. Something involving Tyrone's powers.
Right. She didn't see anything useful, that's for sure.
Or not immediately useful anyway.
Right. And she.
But then she apologizes, like, sorry, I couldn't bring him out of his state.
Right. And that's a testament to Mina, because once Mina does find out that Tandy was using her, she still understands that Tandy is,
Well, I think at that moment she was just like willing to try anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not able to reach my father, so if you can try, if you think you can do it, go for it.
Right.
I'm desperate at this point.
Yeah, and also there's that good person underneath there that says, "I'll forgive you."
I'm thinking something eventually Tandy's going to use her light on her father, and that will heal him or bring him out of his state.
I hope so.
So,
because Mina deserves that.
Yeah.
Mina is genuinely a good person.
Right. Which makes no sense that she's working for Roxxon.
I know.
At all.
I know. And I think
just a paycheck. I guess.
think she might find out that Roxxon's a terrible corporation.
Yeah, maybe she'll end up helping Tyrone and Tandy at some point.
Yeah, maybe.
So, unless she ends up dead.
Oh, let's hope not.
Yeah. Who knows? You never know.
Can we not fridge Mina?
Yeah, that would be nice, but it's possible. Now, there was this guy there, this real jerky guy from Roxxon.
Yes.
That apparently Mina gets into it for a little bit, where she told this guy to dig at this one spot, but apparently he was cutting corners and ended up digging like 12 feet away.
Right.
Which screwed up the whole thing.
Right. And she does have a frustration with her company over things like this, apparently.
Right.
So
Stan.
Right.
Stan is apparently this guy. So this guy, like Stan, calls out Mina and Tandy, calls Mina a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Tandy doesn't respond too well to it, so she goes over, creates a light dagger, and slashes Stan's tires of his precious car with it.
I loved it.
So,
I was very happy about that. He deserved it.
Yep, he did.
Because he ruined Mina's thing.
Yeah, he did.
And I loved when they were walking through the swamp and she was pointing out the orchid. Were they orchids or lilacs or something that was growing there?
I think it was an orchid.
Orchid.
Something like.
They were so
like
pretty.
That.
It was really.
She
nice.
says, "Yeah, they're kind of going away."
Mm-hmm.
So.
It was very, very cool looking.
And Mina, to her credit, she wasn't a complete pushover, because she did figure out that Tandy wasn't who she said she was. She started noticing things like Tandy's like knowledge of blueprints.
Yep.
How to read blueprints and some other things. She started adding this up in her head. She's like, okay, I know you're not who you say you are.
Right.
She wasn't stupid.
Yeah, no, she wasn't. She wasn't.
She was paying attention.
Yeah, and that's the credit of the writers. I
thought it was pretty funny that she says, I don't know who you are, but you're a horrible liar.
Yeah.
Which that's what Tandy does. She lies.
Exactly. That's
so I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, but Mina is also brilliant, too. Right. So there's that.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Okay, so work with me.
Yep.
Tyrone goes, after last week where he popped in to see Dwayne working with Connors, he decides he's going to go and try and get a job with Dwayne. And I'm guessing it's so he can find out what's going on between them, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. He was, just trying to figure out what Dwayne's connection with Connors is and that whole thing. So he's trying to learn more about that. He tries to hit up Dwayne for a job.
Right. And he says, well, I want to work with you because, if I hadn't gone to this prep school, I would be working with you anyway.
Right.
And, I kind of want to follow in my brother's footsteps. He's playing all the cards.
Right. So Dwayne essentially relents and takes Tyrone on a ride along and said, okay, here, let me show you, see if you want this life.
Mm-hmm. But he's telling him from the beginning, no, you don't want to work for me.
Right. Which,
to his credit...
He's trying to warn Tyrone away from him.
Right.
Right.
He knows he's a bad guy, so...
Yeah.
So, yeah, he does. He goes on the ride-along. And, of course, Tyrone knows... He does already know that he's a bad guy.
Right.
But he's persistent because he wants to get in there and find out what's going on.
Right.
So he goes on the ride along, and yeah, he sees it's bad stuff and all that, but he's persistent. He wants to join in, and he ends up following one of Dwayne's guys.
Dealers, yeah. So this guy was supposed to get this money.
Yeah.
And they end up getting confronted by Connors and Bridget O'Reilly.
Right.
And the deal goes sideways, and the guy, Tyrone, uses the opportunity to get the bag.
Right.
And so that he knows that Dwayne's, it's important to him to get this bag back.
Right.
So he uses that as a way to kind of prove himself to Dwayne.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, hey, I saw your boy left the bag, but, hey, I just happened to find this.
Right. So he takes it to Dwayne, and I think this is really smart. He takes the bag to Dwayne, and Dwayne goes, okay, so you picked it up. Did you look in it? And Tyrone just looks at him like, why would I look in it?
Right.
And he's like, look, it's your bag. Why would I look in your bag?
Right.
And it's one of those where, plausible deniability.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what was in there because I never looked inside.
Exactly.
Right.
And Dwayne realizes, okay, this kid's pretty smart. I guess it's cool. And the dealer guy also kind of beats up Tyrone.
Right.
In an alley for doing this, but it wasn't a big deal. Now, yep. Connors, when Tyrone is running away with the bag, tries to shoot him, and he keeps popping out.
Well,
doesn't he?
That was.
Or was that later?
That was later.
Okay.
That was after Connors and O'Reilly show up to confront Dwayne.
Okay.
So what happens is, let's see here. So Connors and O'Reilly have figured out, okay, they're kind of like outside, and Connors tells O'Reilly to, like, okay, you wait in the car 5 minutes. I'm going to go inside,
mm-hmm.
confront the guy, and so that once you enter the warehouse, he tells Dwayne to shoot O'Reilly because he's already suspicious of O'Reilly.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So he tries to use Dwayne as a way to take out O'Reilly.
Right.
O'Reilly. And so she goes in there and then quickly shoots Dwayne first.
Right. Because she sees that Dwayne has his gun trained on Connors.
Right.
So
Ty's off watching this.
Mm-hmm.
And then
he
takes off. He's all upset because, you shot Dwayne, you
mm-hmm.
a-hole.
Right. So not only was my brother killed by a setup by Connors, but now
my brother's
Dwayne.
friend is dead, yes.
Right.
So,
and it's all a setup by Connors again.
Right. So Connors realizes there's another witness after calling out.
Mm-hmm.
So Ty takes off, and Connors goes to chase him, but then Ty starts teleporting away.
Right.
And ends up back in the church.
Yep.
Where Tandy's there, and then Tyrone starts breaking down in tears, and that's where we're left.
And Tandy tries to touch him and can't.
Right. She keeps getting repelled.
Right.
They can't touch each other.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't figured it out yet.
That's right.
How to touch each other.
Yeah. Which is probably good. Right.
And this is after, we forgot to talk about this, that Dwayne admitted that he knew Connors. He worked with Connors, and he knew that Connors was the cop that shot and killed Tyrone's brother.
Right.
So there's that.
Yeah, but now he's dead, so it's not like he could do anything about it now.
And now so Tyrone was just like, "Oh, you killed the witness against Connors, you idiot."
Right.
So yeah.
Right. But now O'Reilly has shot
Right.
Dwayne.
And now Connors is suspicious of Tyrone's powers.
Right.
Not Tyrone Power, the actor. Tyrone's powers.
Right.
Got it.
And he avoided all those bullets. Every time a bullet shot out of the gun, he would teleport somewhere.
Right.
To avoid it. Okay, and then we have...
That would be probably the three men I'm sorry.
Reading the room.
Reading the room, yes. So
I'm trying to avoid saying the name.
Okay.
Evita. And her
aunt Chantel. So they're at their house, and Chantel is trying to prepare for a voodoo reading.
Now, Chantel knows that Evita has had sex with Tyrone, but she doesn't smell that so much on her. She smells power.
Okay.
That's what she says.
Yep.
And she wants to know what is happening.
And can we talk about how bad the actress is playing Chantel?
I don't like her at all. She's terrible.
I am reading my lines just like this.
And it's like she has watched Practical Magic 100 times. And that's what she thinks she needs to sound like.
Right.
Like all the witches in Practical Magic put together.
Horrible actress.
Yes, horrible. So, and she is really the weak spot in the show.
Yeah.
I mean, everything else is great. And I agree. She's like, oh, girl, I have to check all the cards. And I mean, it's terrible.
It's really painfully bad.
Yeah, it's bad. So she says,
but she does say, like, well, I want to try looking into New Orleans' future.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm going to do this reading.
Right. She doesn't care so much about the powers or whatever. She just wants to see what kind of an impact it's going to have on New Orleans.
Then later she says, I have an itch, and I want to dig into Ty's story.
Mm-hmm. But
so,
what she
something,
does is
something big is about to happen.
Right. She puts down all these tarot cards and stuff in front of Evita.
And regular playing cards used in tarot format.
Right. And Tyrone's little figure is sitting on the table.
The 3D printed Tyrone figure is still on the mantelpiece.
Right.
Which I thought was pretty funny.
So there's that. And I think Evita is wondering what on earth her aunt is on.
Right.
Because she doesn't get it. She doesn't understand that Tyrone has powers.
So then Chantel says that Tyrone is one half of a legend called the Divine Pair.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, I wonder who the second part of the pair could be.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you're paying attention, it should be pretty obvious.
Right. Well, to us it is.
I know.
I don't think Evita has seen him with...
And then they say that, well, they complete the reading and they realize one of the divine pairing has to die.
Yep.
So there's our, ticking clock, sort of.
Right.
Or that's coming soon.
So,
Portent doom.
So Evita is going to keep an eye on him, I guess, and try and make sure Tandy's the one that dies.
Presumably.
Yep.
Either way, it's all setting up to be like the Evita versus Tandy.
Yep.
It's coming down the Main Street at this point.
It sure is.
So
all because of that terrible
Because
actress.
Evita obviously wants to protect Tyrone because she's in love with him.
Right.
So if she kills Tandy, then maybe Tyrone will be safe.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
Yep.
Anything else about this episode?
No, I liked it.
You liked it?
Mm-hmm, very much. I'm liking the show a lot.
It was good, yeah.
And there wasn't a lot of Chantel, so...
Right. I'm still waiting. I want to see some Cloak and Dagger partnered up against criminals. I'm waiting for that.
It's getting late.
I know.
We need to see
it's like we're 6 episodes in. We should kind of start seeing it now.
And that last scene encourages me.
Yeah. Hopefully. So let's start seeing some cloaks and daggers. Literally.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And used more than just slashing tires.
Yeah.
Would be nice. All right. So what's your rating for this one?
8.5 tarot cards.
Tarot cards.
That's right. I have the Vertigo tarot set, by the way.
I do too.
Do you really?
I do.
That's
I still
awesome.
have it. Yep. We're like twinsies.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay.
So, because Dave McKeon, I was all big into Sandman. And once I found that Dave McKeon did the artwork on that tarot set, I was just like, that's cool.
I know. I love it.
Yep. I also gave it 8.5. I give it 8.5 slash tires.
Very cool.
So
that's 2.5 cars. 2 1/4 cars.
This is true. Well, you got the spare in the back.
Okay, so 2 cars.
So slash the spare tire too.
Okay.
Right.
Or 1 SUV.
Right. There you go. That works. All right. So that's our shows for this week. So do we have any Justina feedback? I hope.
It's not long though, and I can read it. It was written.
Oh, so we have a written
That's
feedback.
Right. So she says, "Hi, Karen and Charles."
I like your Justina voice.
Yep. Hope you guys are having a super week. I had a super week finishing up Krypton. I am so glad it got renewed. I would have been so sad if it just ended that way. Seg in the Phantom Zone, Zod making the city kneel. Since this Zod is from the future, so this is the same man that goes up against Superman, right?
Right.
Okay. 10 out of 10 Doomsday on the loose.
All right.
Cloak and Dagger keeps getting better and better. The voodoo lady is starting to unravel info about the divine pairing. 9 out of 10 disappearing bees. And she gave it a little bee emoji at the end there.
Very cute.
Yep. Have a super week, Justina. And there's lots of little face emojis and double
hearts
emoji.
And all that stuff. So
yeah.
So thank you, Justina, for writing back. We haven't had you for a couple weeks, so that was nice. We missed you.
I hope I did it justice.
You do. You have
I have to amp it up a little bit.
You have to kind of like get super perky, like you need like 2 shots of double espresso.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah.
Because Justina is like the perkiest person I know.
She is.
That's a compliment.
And then I have to tone it back down.
Right, you get back down to normal Karen voice. Dial it back a little.
That's right.
Bring it back.
I don't feel right unless it's, "Hi, Karen and Charles." It has to be like that at the beginning.
You have to do that kind of like a little sing-song voice with like that upbeat.
I know.
Tempo.
I don't feel right unless we have that.
We have to be very upbeat when you're reading Justina's emails.
That's right.
So if you want to be like Justina, we'd love to hear from you as well. No slight on Justina, because of course we love hearing from her. But Karen, I would say that this person, if you would like to write in just like Justina did, needs to write into fandomzonecast@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
At the Gmail.
That's right.
Or you can reach us on FandomZoneCast at FandomZoneCast on the Twitter machine.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great place to do it.
It is.
The Fandom Zone Podcast on Facebook.
That's right. Fandom Zone Podcast on Facebook.
And we now have a brand new spiffy Instagram account.
We do.
So you want to lay that down on us?
Sure. Hold on a minute.
I know what it is, but I can read it if you want.
Wow. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so just because we're not consistent,
is it different?
It's different from our Twitter account.
Oh, crap.
So our Twitter account's at Fandom Zone Cast, but apparently our Instagram account is at Fandom Zone Podcast.
Okay.
So just throw in the extra pod on there, and because we just started this up. So trying something a little different to kind of get us on the Instagrams.
Yep. And I am going to put something very cool on there this week.
Yeah. So please follow us on Instagram if you're not doing so already.
That's right.
We'd love to have you follow us because that way we're going to throw up little like bonus stuff. So it'll be definitely worth your while.
That's right. And I do want to give Ken from Chicago a shout out. I forgot to mention this. He says, Karen says if she and Charles keep on discussing random segues, the episode would be 3 hours long. He says, I say I am here for it.
Okay. You were here for the 3-hour episode.
He is, yes. He says, hashtag I am here for it. That's the hashtag he uses.
Okay. Well, that's one. One person's here for it.
One.
Yeah.
I bet we'd get Justina and Phil at the very least.
Well, we used to do 3-hour podcasts.
We did.
So it's not like we couldn't do that.
Of course we could.
But we're trying to be better.
Doesn't mean we should.
Right. We're trying to be better about that because we know you got things to do. We've got things to do.
We've got things to do. Also, you can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review and a star rating there because that's good as well.
And Karen, where can they reach you on the interwebs?
I am at Aleveria, Aleveria. on the Twitter machine, and there's a link in my bio to my blog, which gives all my other links. I'm also at Allie's_stuff as well. So.
Excellent.
And right. You are?
I am, of course, at Charles Skaggs on the Twitter machine, at Charles Skaggs on the Instagram. See, I kept mine consistent.
I'm sorry.
That's just all right. I'm just teasing. Google Plus for all you crazy kids in the Google Plus.
Crazy kids on the Google Plus. Sorry.
Facebook, of course, at Charles Skaggs, Hilliard, Ohio. Oh, and certain blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee and hot.
Damn good coffee and hot. Where I talk about all the shows we talk about here on the Fandom Zone podcast.
And more.
So, next week, we're obviously going to talk about, and I should say my other podcast they do for Southgate Media Group, Ghost with the Twin Peaks podcast. They do with Zan Sprouse. Next Stop Everywhere, the award-winning Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast.
That's right.
That I do with Jesse Jackson. Is that too annoying that I keep saying the award-winning podcast? Because I can stop that.
No, you won an award.
The award-winning podcast, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast that I do with Jesse Jackson. And Titan Talk, the Titans podcast that I do also with Jesse. And we just recently, hopefully, waiting for certain Rob Southgate to post episode 6, where we talk more about the whole big new DC Universe digital service.
Nice.
That got the big announcement finally.
Yay.
So, and all the Doom Patrol spin-off and all that. So stay tuned for that.
I can't wait.
And otherwise, come on back next week. We're going to obviously talk about, hey, guess what? More Preacher, more Cloak and Dagger, more Luke Cage.
That's right. Because that's all we got right now.
That's all we got right now, but we're getting close. We're going to probably have something coming up
soon?
Fear the Walking Dead, I think, is coming back soon.
Okay. One of the two of them.
Actual Walking Dead doesn't come back till October.
Okay.
So, I don't know.
Something's coming.
We'll have something coming up.
Something's coming, don't know when.
Exactly. So but hopefully you guys are enjoying these 3 shows in the meantime. And again, please check us out on Instagram now at Fandom Zone Podcast.
Excellent. Please
we would love to hear. So, and tell all your friends, enemies, all that stuff.
Oh,
and apart from that, anything else you'd like to add, Karen?
That's it.
All right. So we knocked it out pretty good.
Yeah.
We did good. We're on track. How'd that happen? I have no idea.
I don't know.
It's magic.
It is.
So before we screw this up, thanks everybody for listening to the Phantom Zone podcast. We definitely appreciate you guys.
We do.
And as we always do. And hi to obviously Justina, Ken, and Phil, all our regulars. We always appreciate you as well. And we'll see you next time right here on the Phantom Zone podcast. Have a super week.
Have a super week.
Have a super week.
Bee emoji.